Hello, first graders. This is Mrs. Holly. Today we are going to read this book. It is called Bootsie Barker Bites. Bootsie, that's kind of an interesting name. And bites? Bootsie bites? Doesn't sound like she's a nice person. And I'm looking at the illustration because looking at people's faces and the illustrations of this girl and her face, the illustration can really tell me something about what she's like. She's gritting her teeth, her eyes are kind of squinty. She doesn't look very nice. I'm wondering how that's going to play into the story. This book is by Barbara Botner and it's illustrated by Peggy Rathman. Let's see what happens. Bootsie Barker Bites. Looks like somebody's afraid. They're hiding behind a curtain. My mother and Bootsie Barker's mother are best friends. When Mrs. Barker comes to visit, she always brings chocolate donuts, fresh strawberries, and Bootsie. First, we have a tea party. Then my mother tells Bootsie and me to play in my room. I try to get Bootsie interested in my book about turtles. But Bootsie hates turtles. Oh, goodness. She is throwing a fit. Ooh, I think she even tore the page out of that book. I don't think that's a good idea. And I don't think this little girl likes it either. You're a turtle, howls Bootsie. And I'm a turtle-eating dinosaur. Look how she used her imagination. And the illustrator helped us by making the shadow a dinosaur. She looks scared. She's looking at the wall. It even looks like the stuffed animals are scared. My mother calls, "Play nicely, girls." Bootsie yells, "We are." I can't yell anything. Look at her. She's covering up her mouth. Oh, that's just not being very truthful. It's time for the Barkers to go home. We'll be back tomorrow, says Mrs. Barker cheerfully. I tell my mother I don't like playing with Bootsie Barker. I'm glad that she's being honest. My mother tells me I have to learn to get along with all kinds of people. I go to bed and dream that Mrs. Barker moves far away and takes Bootsie with her. Here's the dream in the bubble. But Mrs. Barker and Bootsie never go anywhere except the park. The grocery store. Oh, look, she's not being nice. She's sticking out her tongue. And our house. It's so nice you girls can be friends, says Mrs. Barker as Bootsie leads me to my room. Look how she's leading her. She's pulling her by the pigtail. And she does not look very happy. I can tell by looking at her face she's got an upside down frown. Her eyes are rolled up into her head. And look at the way Bootsie is just determined walking forward. I let Bootsie look at my pet salamander, Charlene. But Bootsie hates salamanders. You're a salamander, screams Bootsie, and I'm a salamander-eating dinosaur. Here she comes. She's trying to catch her salamander. Save it. Mrs. Barker knocks on the bedroom door. It's time for Bootsie to go home. Oh, look what Bootsie's doing. She's got her boot on the back of the girl and she's pulling her hair. Look at the teddy bear. The teddy bear's even closing his eyes. And the kangaroo is closing the Joey's eyes. Don't look, honey. Tomorrow, says Bootsie, you get to be a worm. That does not sound like fun. That night I dreamed that Bootsie accidentally falls off the edge of the world. I try to save her, but it's too late. I think she likes that idea. She's smiling. In the morning, my mother says she has a wonderful surprise. Bootsie will be staying overnight at our house while her parents are in Chicago. Not a good idea. I don't think she likes that at all. Look what she's dreaming. This whole thing is in a bubble. She's thinking about it. I picture Charlene and me rushed to the hospital with dinosaur bites. It's a lizard right there. Yeah, we know where the dinosaur bites came from. When my mother asks me what Bootsie and I would like for snacks, I can't stand it anymore. Bootsie Barker is a dinosaur, I shout, and she's planning to eat me alive. My mother looks surprised. Sweetheart, she says, tell Bootsie you don't want to play that game. I go to my room to think it over. Charlene and I spend the morning inventing a new game. The doorbell rings. It's the Barkers dropping off Bootsie the dinosaur. Hello, little worm, says Bootsie. I stand up and I look Bootsie in the eye. Pardon me, Bootsie, I am not a worm. I am a paleontologist. Do you know what they do? They hunt for dinosaur bones. Would you like to play? Oh, look what happened to her. Now who looks like the dinosaur? Bootsie runs out the front door. She wants to go with her parents. Mrs. Barker says Bootsie will have more fun if she stays at our house. Bootsie throws a tantrum on the sidewalk, so Bootsie's parents take Bootsie to Chicago, which means I don't have to wish Bootsie takes a rocket to outer space. Although if she does, it's fine with me. Boy, this girl has some good imagination. I don't think the moon's going to like Bootsie in outer space. He's going to eat part of his nose and eat the stars. What did you think of that book? I think Bootsie's a pretty mean girl. I wonder why she became so mean. What made her like that? Maybe she didn't have any friends. Maybe she didn't get enough attention from her parents or her other friends or anybody. There's lots of reasons why she might have turned to be a little bit mean. But I am glad that in the middle here, our main character stands up for herself. She says, no, Bootsie's not being nice. She's being a dinosaur. She's not playing like a nice girl should play. And the mom says kind of what a lot of moms and teachers say. Well, did you tell her that you didn't want to play that game? And sometimes it's hard to say it in those words, I don't want to play that game. But this girl, using her imagination, takes that advice and she finds a new game to play. A game that Bootsie does not like and scares her away. So perhaps you've been in a similar situation where you've had somebody that is not playing the way you want to play. What you need to do is talk to them about it. Tell them you don't want to play that way and figure out a different way to play. Maybe not necessarily one that scares your friend away, but one that includes them, and so that everyone has a chance to have some fun in the end. And another thing that you could do would be to set some rules down. so that you and your friends understand each other. For instance, when it's time for your friend to come over to play, you can say, all right, at my house, we're going to play T. We can play with the dinosaur, but we're not going to tear the books, right? We can talk nicely to each other, but we're not going to scream and yell. So if you kind of set the standards right at the beginning, that makes it easier in the end, because then you can just turn and say, well, remember, we weren't going to use our loud voices. So perhaps you could take a piece of paper and post it in your room. I'll use a whiteboard. Rules. Rules. The rules for this room. And maybe your first one is going to be talk quietly. Quietly. And then you can have another rule, use the toys nicely. Because I noticed she tore the page out of the book. That was not nice. Okay? And one that you should always have, take turns. I bet you can think of some more rules that you may want to use in your room. Make yourself a chart. Hang it up in your room. See how many good rules you can come up with.